Good afternoon, Kitchissippi. It is Sunday, March the 19th. This is a video version of the weekly newsletter, issue number 86. If you're not subscribed to the email newsletter, not getting all the links and the information that are in there, you can do so at kitchissippiward.ca, and I would encourage you to subscribe. Let's jump into this week's newsletter. The first item concerns the Committee of Adjustment hearing. There was one this week on March the 15th. There were applications for 181 Richmond Road, 244 Atlantis, and 564 Mansfield. The 181 Richmond Road is the Bite This canteen that is across from the Superstore on Richmond Road. They had been seeking a variance in order to be allowed to have their patio, which is closer than would ordinarily be allowed to the residential zone. I understand that that has been adjourned to a future date, pending some further discussions with the stakeholder and Bite This owners. The 244 Atlantis and the 564 Mansfield, we don't yet have the preliminary decisions on those. I'll get them into the newsletter as soon as we have those. Also in the newsletter this week, the R4 zoning review. R4 is the residential zone, fourth density, thus the R4. It's a zoning that is relatively prevalent in Kitchissippi Ward, certainly in areas like Hintonburg, Mechanicsville, parts of Westboro near the Westboro Transit Station. It allows for small apartment buildings, triplexes, buildings of a smaller but dense built form. One of the difficulties over the years in the city has been that developers are able to pack those pretty full of units. So the built form is prescribed by the zoning, but there have been some difficulties controlling the number of units in there. The city has been looking at that for months now. Its latest discussion paper is online. You can find it by following the links that are in the newsletter. I know that all of our community associations are taking a look at that as well. Also in the newsletter this week, the 1960 Scott Street, that's the Trailhead building zoning, is coming up probably at the end of the month at Planning Committee. We are having an open house on March the 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Churchill Churchill Senior Center. That is the project that we saw 22 stories later last year. We held an open house. Some small changes have been made. They've notched out a chunk of the southeast corner in order to have more distance to the homes on Clifton, but it is still a 22-story tower. At the open house, we'll have an opportunity to take one more look at that project before it goes to Planning Committee, likely on March the 28th. Also in the newsletter, my pop-up office hours. I'm going to have them at Donna's Express, Moe's, for the first time in this term of council. We're holding those on Friday from 2 until 5 p.m. That's Friday, March the 24th at Moe's, 2 to 5 p.m. for my weekly pop-up hours. Also, the Iona-Broadhead-Helena plans are now online on the website. If you go to the links on kitchissippiward.ca, you'll see the presentation boards that were presented at the open house a couple of weeks ago. I also have a note in the newsletter this week. I have been working as part of the Juno Host Committee, along with multiple other stakeholders in the Ottawa music industry, on a panel that's going to be held on March the 31st at the Innovation Centre at Bayview Yards, which is turning out to be an absolutely spectacular venue. We're hosting a panel discussion on Ottawa as a music city. We have some out-of-town guests from Montreal, from Toronto. It should be an excellent discussion as the momentum continues to build to turn Ottawa into a music city. Also in the newsletter this week, Bruce Amos is a resident in the neighborhood. He has put up a webpage filled with demolition pictures from the Broadview School, stills and videos. Link in the newsletter to take you to that. I'd encourage you to take a look. There's some fun stuff in there. Also, the gazebo at Golden Manor, which is across the street from me here, needs benches. My office has purchased one bench for the gazebo by way of a donation to the tenant association there, but they need several others. There was a great article about it in the Kitchissippi Times this week, including with contact information for how you can donate. I hope everyone will take a look through the link that's on the newsletter site and consider donating to that worthwhile cause. Next Sunday, I will be sous chef to Chef Patrick of Absinthe Lounge. There is a pasta cooking workshop that will end up with wine and pasta to be held at Absinthe Restaurant. That is a fundraiser for the Parkdale Food Center. I understand the tickets are selling fast. Get yours today. Follow the links that are in the newsletter. And I and my downtown Urban Caucus colleagues have been pleased to support a talk by Bea Johnson. Bea Johnson is the author of Zero Waste Home, discussing a zero waste lifestyle. She's going to be downtown providing a talk on April the 18th. I've got details of it in the newsletter, and the Zero Waste Lifestyle book was the inspiration for a new grocery that's going to be opening up in Ottawa called the New Grocery, which is going to be a zero waste grocery. So it should be interesting to hear from Bea Johnson on that front. Otherwise, at City Hall, there are no major committee meetings next week. I think the next big meeting we have will be on March the 28th, that planning committee meeting. One of the key items that's going to be on there is with respect to the rezoning here in Byron Linear Park. That rezoning is to allow the farmers market to continue to operate. We've been consulting about that for several weeks now. The farmers market is wildly popular with residents. I've heard overwhelming support, and you'll see in the report that will be put online later this week that I am supporting the rezoning. There are a number of issues around traffic, parking, garbage, environmental degradation that have been getting better since the beginning of this term of council, but still need to be addressed. I'll be talking with the local residents about parking and traffic over the coming weeks, but I do expect that we will pass the rezoning to allow the Byron Farmers Market to continue to operate here. I think those are most of the items in the newsletter this week. There is a bunch of meetings at City Hall for me. I'm going to be meeting with residents of Island Park to talk about heritage conservation districts, markets revitalization, meeting with the city and some stakeholders on the future of Scott Street as a complete street, discussions about landlord licensing. All in all, a fairly packed week of meetings going into the following week when our committee and legislative agenda will resume. Listen, if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, can't get all these links, do so today at kitchissippiward.ca, and I'll see everyone in another newsletter. Have a great week, Kitchissippi.